Hi, I'm Laura Boxall. I work in the communications team at the Planning Inspectorate, and I'm here this morning with my colleagues Madeline from Enforcement and Carolyn from HR, who are here to talk about a collaborative working story on putting together a new menopause policy for the Planning Inspectorate. So welcome, ladies. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So would you be able to just give me a little bit of background about how all this came about?
It really started when the Civil Service launched its own menopause in the workplace policy, and later followed that up by signing the menopause workplace pledge. It really brought it home to us that we needed to review our own policy, that it wasn't really fit for purpose. And so I approached my line manager, Richard, and asked him if he thought it was a good idea, and he said he did. And he encouraged me to go to People Board with the idea, and they were very supportive.
That's great. And how did you start working together as the Women's Network alongside HR?
Myself and Sarah Williams, we run the Hot Flush Forums Cafe, and we were invited to become involved and to network with Carolyn and asked if we would actually review the new policy and guidance against the civil service guidance which had come out, and also the existing PINS menopause policy. So our part was reviewing the policies and just providing feedback and suggestions or things that we think that we could be tweaked. So we sort of meticulously combed through the policy and guidance, and we fed our feedback to Carolyn, but we also sort of asked the network if they had any comments or anything, any suggestions that they wanted us to take forward.
That's great. And why was it important, Carolyn, to work with the Women's Network on this?
Well, I think it's important to work with all the networks, actually. Once I'd drafted a policy, that then went back out to my HR colleagues and also all the networks. But it was important to get as many views as possible, I think, and to try and find some middle ground so that it supported all in the organisation.
Okay, so that was about drawing out through the experience of others to know that what was in the policy would be workable in practice?
Yes. Very much to put their feedback into action. And the Women's Network in particular came up with some really good feedback on websites, sources of information they'd already found that might help others.
Anything else to add to that about how the Women's Network helped shape the policy?
I think just mainly, because Sarah Williams and myself work very closely on this, and I think being able to talk from a lived experience, if I hadn't lived it, I really wouldn't be able to provide any sort of positive feedback. So I think the fact that we've lived it, we can actually make a valuable contribution. And as my perimenopause has been at the extreme end, I've been able to just talk from my own personal experience, and also from talking to other women that I've been networking with from other departments, and to hear that the issues and how they're dealing with things and rolling out the guidance at their departments. That's really helped give a rounder picture.
And anyone else in the organisation get involved?
Yeah, I went to the rest of my HR team, who were great, gave me feedback. And then, of course, I approached the trade unions, Prospect and PCS, and gave them a draft policy and guidance. They reviewed it, we discussed it, I incorporated their feedback, and we agreed on a final policy, final version. And then that's due to go to our People Board for official governance sign-off this month.
Oh, fantastic. So could you give me some of the key points of the guidance that you've worked on?
We adapted and expanded on the civil service policy and guidance for PIN's own particular needs. And that was important to us because we wanted to support those who are impacted by the menopause. And that might not just be employees, but their managers and their colleagues too.
Okay.
I think from my own personal experience, when I was going through the perimenopause back in 2017, the support wasn't really there. I wasn't aware that there was a policy in place. And for me, it's sort of raising that awareness, support to managers, support to colleagues, how they can support someone who's going through the menopause and the perimenopause, and just to normalise the conversation.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Maddie, to normalise the conversations. And these and other sensitive conversations, we want to create a workplace culture where people feel comfortable to discuss issues like this, and they can work with their manager to put in place any workplace adjustments that are needed.
That's great. Were there any challenges in pulling this policy together, working as Women's Network and HR together?
I think it was quite an organic process. Myself, Sarah, and Carolyn have built a really good working relationship together, and that Carolyn's reassured myself and Sarah Williams that our contribution was valuable. And Sarah Williams and I are really, really good friends. So what we did was we printed the PINS policy off. We had a copy of the civil service policy and the guidance and the policy that Carolyn and HR put together, and we basically meticulously went through each and just jotted down notes and went through our own personal experience and what we thought should be and shouldn't be. But I have to say, Carolyn and the HR team did a really fantastic job.
That's great. And what advice would you give to others thinking about working in this collaborative way?
I think feedback, certainly for me, writing policy, feedback's very important. All too easily you could fall into that trap of it being quite subjective from your own point of view, and it's wonderful to hear feedback from all the networks, as well as HR colleagues, and incorporate as many different views, because especially with the menopause, every woman's experience is so different. So hopefully we've captured some good information for them.
And what's the response been like from the Women's Network membership?
Very positive. It's generated a lot of interest. It's a matter that the Women's Network is very passionate about. I think it was the number one subject that the Women's Network wanted to get out there and to, make a difference. And I have friends now who are going through the beginnings of the perimenopause, whereas I've gone through an early perimenopause and I'm going through the menopause now. But now I'm finding that more women are reaching out to me and talking to me and asking me questions.
I think it's really important managers have that information at their fingertips and feel confident to talk to their employees about it. And I must say as well, as regards collaboration, the trade unions have also been very good. They were very committed to getting a policy that was right for their members. And my own line manager, Richard, as well. When I first suggested the policy, it wasn't even on a list of policies that I was due to work through. And he was very supportive about me introducing it and working on it.
That's great. And what do you hope will be the outcome for those going through the menopause in the organisation as a result of this new policy?
Just, I think from my own personal experience, I only have my line manager, Richard Voles, and he was really supportive and he made all the difference. He knew I wasn't well. I didn't need to say anything. I was going to work in the winter wearing a thin strap summer dress. I was in agony as well, I had a lot of pain. So I had a hot water bottle and I had a fan on my desk and a summer dress, and just an antidote. I can remember going to the tea point once to fill up my hot water bottle and somebody saying, "Oi, Maddie, why are you wearing a summer dress in the middle of winter and you got a hot water bottle?" And I just turned and said, "If it's all right with you, I'm going through the perimenopause and I don't feel well, so I'm filling up my hot water bottle." And it really sort of stopped them in their tracks, and I went back to my desk. So I think from that experience, from talking to managers and friends, I think people don't always know how to support a colleague who's going through the menopause or perimenopause. So it's not just managers. I think it's colleagues as well to normalise that conversation, to know that we have this policy and guidance in place, and also to know we have the Hot Flush Forums Cafe, which Sarah Williams and I are hoping, our plan is to get it going in March, and know that anyone, it's all inclusive. People can come in, talk and seek guidance, and it's a safe space.
And is that open for any member of staff to come and join?
Yes, it's promoted on the PINS intranet with the date. You just need to click the link.
So it's a virtual based?
It's a virtual base, although we have run in-person events. So for the World Menopause Day, Sarah Williams and I organised a harbour walk to celebrate the day. So we are keen to try and organise more in-person events, but the cafe generally is a lunchtime online. Bring your coffee, bring your lunch, and it's a relaxed atmosphere where you can talk, or if you don't have much to say or you don't want to talk, you can just sit and listen and know it's a safe space.
Okay, so that's more for people who are going through that particular perimenopause or menopause.
Yes.
What about support for colleagues who want to know more, for example, male colleagues or those who've got friends, family members that want to know more and support? What would your advice be to them?
Our guidance is very informative. So I've pulled together a list of websites, other sources of information where people can turn to if they want a little bit more advice. And obviously we're around as well should they want to discuss their own sort of personal circumstances in a bit more detail and want a bit of support from that angle. But certainly there's a lot of information included in the guidance.
And what would you say success looks like as a result of all of this new guidance and collaborative working?
I think raising awareness, don't you, Maddie, that, to realise that some women may be going through this and may not want necessarily to make a big deal of it, but equally they need support, and knowing that the guidance is there and the policy's there to provide that support.
That's great. It sounds like a really, really positive piece of working together from a network and from an HR team perspective. Thank you very much for all of your thoughts today.